Hey up guys, part number 4 of my Meng F-18 build. Coming along really nicely. So this part we're just going to all be about decals. I put them all on, spoiler alert, stencils, all of them. It took me like 3.5 hours, so don't worry, the video won't be 3.5 hours long. Kind of get down and dirty, quickly go over some of the stuff on here, and we'll move on to the weathering next week. So let's go ahead and start decaling. Hey, happy Friday. Hope you guys had a great week. So we're up to what, part 4 I guess now. So hopefully you guys are still with me. So last week we got the paintwork done, and you might notice a few changes, so a little bit of housekeeping. So after I finished filming and editing that video, I thought I want a little bit more visual interest. I looked back at my reference pic and it had one of these big panels up here painted. I kind of like the effect I got with the weathering, so I don't want to paint too much. So I did paint a few little panels here and there. So I took light gold grey. Now note, this is light ghost grey is the actual top, but gold grey is the cockpit colour, so it's a little bit darker. So I thought that's a darker grey, MRP, so it's in a bottle ready to spray, makes it super easy. So what I did is I masked a couple of panels off and worked my way around, and just very light, again, not hosing it, just very light mist really, or coat, just to kind of put a couple panel lines in there. So panels. So like this guy right here, there's one back here, there's a couple of like flaps here and there. If I just kind of turn the light, one back here, you can kind of see, just adds a little visual interest. And a couple on the side, there's one at the front, back, and just random panels. I think there's one did here too. So it's just again giving that all the different, like, catches the light in the eyes and stuff, just a little visual. I think just like the tiny little one back here. So I did that, and yeah, pick out a few, just not crazy, just a few here and there, which I think really gives it a little bit more visual interest, especially when it comes to the panel line wash and it all tied together and the weathering and stuff. So did that, and then I gave everything a clear coat, as I do use for everything. LP9 is my go-to clear coat for anything, lacquer based. I just love the stuff. Thin it 50-50 with some kind of lacquer thinner. I use Tamiya or Guns lacquer thinner, 50-50 at least. You could probably go actually 70% thinner, to be honest with you. It's probably more I go to 60-70% maybe. Pin it down, give it a good spray. It dries almost probably 20-30 minutes, to be honest with you. So I did that last night before I went to bed, and so it's sat all night now where it's obviously dry. So really smooth. So the reason I typically do a clear coat, 2 reasons. Firstly, whenever I do it with decals, decals just work. They just go down nicely, no problem at all. If I don't do it, I want to get bitten. So it's almost like a jinxy kind of superstition kind of thing. With lacquer smooth, you probably don't need it really with this. I mean, because as you know, last part I took that sponge and I buffed this whole thing up. Obviously, got this thing shiny, got all the paint and stuff, so it'd be a real smooth finish. So you know, you can slide right across here. So I don't think you really need a clear coat, but I do it anyway out of habit. And secondly, I like to do it silver painting. So, but maybe not so much in this model, but you know, if you're doing a nice paint finish, I don't like, I'm putting decals on or whatever, I don't lock it and then scratch it and stuff. So especially the nose. So I like to give a clear coat just to give a layer of protection to that paint so it doesn't scratch or mark it. Obviously in this case we're going for a weathered effect, so that's not really going to bother us. But so I did those 2 things. So like I say, I painted the a few panels here and there, then give it a clear coat. Now ready for decals. Now I do love decals. My way, some people hate it. How I like it is I do sessions of about an hour or so, depending how many there are. I'm looking at the sheet here. There's not too many, so maybe a couple of hours work, I think. Obviously this is for 4 different schemes, so you know, all this stuff is for the Top Gun one. We've got Tomcatters, how about the camera? Tomcatters, Top Gun, we don't need all that stuff. So I just need the Golden Warriors parts. So we're going to work on that one. So we'll go back to one tip I like to do. So I do about hour sessions pretty much, and what I do is my computer right next to me here, I put a YouTube video on or a podcast and just listen away and work on my decals, and that's the way to do it, I think. And after an hour I kind of take a break, come back later in the day, do some more, especially those little stencils and stuff, and work my way around the whole aircraft. So a few of the things I like to do too is, just a quick tip, is the instructions here, especially when they're kind of cluttered like this, very close together. I'll get a pen, and then as I put the decals on, I'll just score through it, so keep a note of what I've done, what I've not done. As you know, we deliberately kept all these parts separate, like the tails and stuff, because it makes it just easy to handle and that kind of thing. So that's pretty much it in terms of the thing. quick, one thing I really like right now is to just give a plug out. There's a YouTube channel called Fighter Pilot Podcast. Every week or every couple of weeks that I release episodes, there's over 100 episodes right now, but what I do is they often focus on an aircraft. So say the week is about the Hornet, so they'll talk about the Hornet for an hour and they'll have a special guest on. The guy who runs it is a former Navy fighter pilot, retired, and he brings on a guest like a pilot of that aircraft who knows it. So in terms of the Hornet, they bring a Hornet guest on and they just talk about the aircraft, about some stories and that kind of stuff. And they go over about an hour. I think just really well produced, really great podcast. I recently came across it a couple of weeks ago, but there's tons of different aircraft on there. And it can be a little bit dangerous because sometimes I listen to an hour about a certain aircraft I don't really know about, and I think to myself, man, I want to build a model of that. So then I go and start looking online and trying to find models and stuff. So it can cost you some money, I guess. But as always, there's tons of great stuff on YouTube, so yeah, that's one thing I like to do. So getting back to the decals, we're kind of going off a tangent here. So here's decal that's the lineup. I talk about this every time I do a decal video. I have tons of decal videos, but I'm assuming people are watching this may have not ever seen my videos before, so I can't go back to the basics again. So scissors to cut decals, obviously. Don't throw away your old airbrush needles. They come in really handy. So two things, they're really good for applying CA glue in very tiny spaces, or they're good for just manipulating decals around because they're pretty sharp. So if you put something you want to move it around, I use tweezers most of the time, but you can just, if it gets kind of sticky, you can just use this to manipulate it around and move it around. Q-tip or cotton bud, depending where you are in the world. That's for excess water, or micro sole or set, whatever. If you're getting a little bit of pooling, you can just use that to wipe any absorb and take away any extra water. These guys are one of the best important tools. These are fantastic. If you don't have them, you do model making, you buy them. The Tamiya decal tweezers. Yeah, they just, the way they end on stuff, it just makes it so easy to pick it up, place it down, move it around. It doesn't scratch. Yeah, these really kind of make all the difference to me when it comes to decals. So yeah, big fan of those. And then, as always, I use micro sole and set. I do have a couple of others in the back. I have solver sets, which I don't really use. That's for if you have real hard to use decals. Solver set, it will get it down good form. So sole and set. So it's kind of backwards, but the set would you use first is the blue one. So what I do is you'll see in a minute, but blue is where I want to put a decal. I put it down on the surface first, and then put it down on top of it. It kind of, I guess it kind of softens the decal and also helps you kind of manipulate it a little bit more. Gives you a little bit more moving time, I think, because of the liquid below it. So I put down the sole, let decal dry 10, depending on what kind of decal, maybe 10, 20, 30 minutes. And then once it's dry and kind of stuck, it's not going to move anywhere, I'll come back with a sole and then again just give it a little coat on top. Neither of these you don't want to flood it, just like a nice brush of over it, and then what that does is it kind of makes it stick down onto the model, and then kind of conform to all the surfaces. So if you have like rivets or panel lines below it, it'll stick it and look like it's painted. It'll kind of suck it down and kind of stick it to the surface. So that's kind of the process we go. Over here, you can see I have my trusty coffee cup warmer and a ramekin with some water in. So I put a little bit of water, and I used to use the kettle, but now I just throw it in the microwave. 15 seconds, that's a perfect temperature. So 15 seconds in the microwave, it's probably about a centimeter deep in there. And then my coffee cup warmer, so this keeps the water warm all the time. I know there's a big thing. People say, oh, you don't need warm water and that kind of stuff, but I just do what works best for me. And warm water makes it kind of soften better and conform better than cold water every single time for me. So I just that's the way I do it. So my people have their own opinions and stuff, but warm water is the way I go. If you do get a coffee cup warmer, as I mentioned before, health and safety wise, this one doesn't have an auto off, so I'd maybe consider one with an auto off, because several times in my modeling career I forgot to turn the thing off, and I worked in the evening. I come in the following morning to my model room, and that thing's still on, and the ramekin's bone dry, all the water being evaporated. So health and safety wise, definitely set an alarm on your phone or do something, or get auto off, so you don't leave this thing on overnight and potentially cause a fire hazard or something. So that is pretty much the setup, going over it. So let me kind of switch the camera back here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one to show you guys kind of what I'm doing, and then I'll move up, then I'll carry on my own. So I can listen to a podcast and relax and stuff, and then I'll check back in routinely and kind of show you my update, kind of where I'm at. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start an easy one. I want to what I've done too is these tails, just to make sure again I don't put things on the wrong side. I put a bit of masking tape on the plain side, so the side's facing out, well, it should be easy anyway, because they do have slime lines on the inside too. So I just want to do it on the, make sure I get it right. Don't put all decals on the wrong side. So I put a little masking tape just to let me know which side to work on. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply a slime line and straight down here. Pretty straightforward. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my decal, which is this one. I know it's the black side facing forward in the aircraft. Just going to dip it in my water for a couple of seconds, then put it back on my cutting mat and just let it soften. Some people leave it soaking for like 10 seconds or so. I don't think there's any need for that, to be honest with you. So let me get my lean across, get a brush, and get some of this micro set. I'm just going to rub it where I'm going to put a decal. Okay, and these are Cartograph decals, and they're ready going. So it could be seconds or it could be minutes. I mean, mini craft kit, the great decals, but it took sometimes 10 minutes to soften, so you never know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up where I want it to go, pull the paperweight behind it. Just check. Actually, got it spot on. I don't even need to move it at all. Well, maybe a little bit. So then I'm just going to use my tweezers and just kind of prod around on it. And this is always where you move it, like slightly different places, and you always get it the wrong spot. Okay. My Q-tip. Wiping excess water. What I did there, see my finger held the decal down so it doesn't move. I just wipe away. And just check real quick again. Yep, perfect. That's like where we want it. So that's it. Easy as that. So that's one done. And let that stick down, probably be about 5-10 minutes. And then what I'll do is I'll come back with a sole and just give it a coat over it, and that'll just suck it down and make it stick better to the surface. So that is really it. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's just be careful. It depends on the type of decals you have too. Some kind of crack easily and some don't. One thing I did notice too on these instructions, they're missing something. I've got these extra decals which I was trying to figure out. So I got these ones right here on my scheme, War Party, 83 and 84. And I know some others up here too, Tom Cowder's and other ones for the other schemes, which aren't on the instructions. So what I think they are, I think they're for the center fuel tank, which I'm 99% sure they are. I'll check online some reference pictures I can find, but I'm pretty sure these two decals aren't on here at all. But again, they go on the fuel tank in the center underneath. The fuel tank just shows you how to paint it, but there's no decal markings on it on the instructions. They kind of admit that it says an error in the instructions. I know the same for some other, like I say, the other schemes is too. There's markings for the fuel tanks, and they're not marked on any of the schemes. So just a heads up on that one. Cool. All right, let me get comfortable, get the podcast on, and I'll see you guys a little bit later on. Okay, so I've done literally an hour, so I put my podcast on, actually listened to the Fighter Pilot podcast about the FA-18 Super Hornet, or Hornet, I think it's both Hornets actually, Super Lexi and Super Hornet. So that was an hour long, passed the time really well, and actually topical because I was working on the same aircraft. So went ahead and put the major decals on. Not too much you can see here. Put the main ones on. Like so. And nope, real problems. The decals are really thin, so I did have a couple of issues where I kind of carefully placed them on the aircraft, and they kind of folded over on themselves. So with that being said, the key to decals is not to keep calm. So I wear tweezers, carefully put it back on the backing paper to keep them moist so it didn't kind of dry out, and then with the tweezers I can unfold it and then place it again. So I think I got away with it. The only issue I made was top of one of these tails, the 303, the number kind of slants backwards, I think. Not, is it backwards? Yeah, the number kind of slants backwards. It's like italic kind of. I put one on the tail the wrong way. Not that you can really notice it too much. But because I did that, I took it away from the front. So two of these are facing the wrong, aren't like kind of sloping backwards. But hey, you don't really notice it that much. But once it's on, I had no real chance. It stuck on, so I couldn't do it. So move it. So the only thing I had a little bit of had to stop for a moment was these around the intakes, the warning kind of triangle things. These are two pieces, which I didn't quite realize. I was trying to figure out how, hey, it doesn't fit. And then, so basically you run the first one up to the line, kind of the panel line here, and the other one just runs, the other decal runs next to it. So that's two part I didn't quite catch. But still tons to go. I mean, I've got the main ones on, but I've got all the little stencils to go on and all the details and stuff. That's not too bad. It actually goes pretty quickly because like there are no steps and stuff. If you just kind of place them all around, before you know it, you have 10 or 20 on. So not so bad. So I got the main ones on. So I've just used the micro set. Now I'm going to use the red, the micro sole. So these have all dried, so no risk of it moving. So I'm just going to just run over each decal, as you can see, like this, with the solution. And what's going to happen is it's all going to wrinkle up, but don't worry, just don't touch it, just leave it for like 30 minutes and it will do its thing. Just don't panic when you see it all wrinkle up, it's just natural. Just running around all these. One thing I should mention too with decals, if you're a beginner, it's just stay in one area at a time and let that dry and do it, and then move on to another area. Just because what happens is if you do some down here and you go to work on this end and you pick it up and it's not stuck, it's going to stick to your finger and you're going to rip it and stuff. So it just makes things a little bit easier to kind of handle if you just kind of stick on one area at a time. But how I like to do it is I like to do all the big ones first, all the squadron markings, and then come back and do all the stencils after the little ones. Just kind of my way of doing it. So I'm just running through every single decal. And what this does is going to stick it down to surface and kind of suck it in, and then so it's picks out all those panel lines. It looks like painted and it's not stuck on. Okay, just a few more. Okay, and this side. Again, I'm not putting tons of stuff on, just give it a coating. If you put tons on, you could react with your paint, depending on what paint you're using, even if you put a clear coat on, so just be careful with that. And that is it. So easy as that. So you can do multiple coats with this stuff. Hopefully one does a drop job. Leave it 30-45 minutes. If it's still not adhering, or if you've got ones that are going to kind of go around corners and around complex kind of curves like instrument panels and stuff, you might need 3 or 4 applications of this. If this doesn't work, you can step it up. Like I said, it's solver set. You can even go to Atomic and do like X20A thinner, or extra thin is the last course. But if you're using extra thin for decals, what you do is literally touch it and never touch it ever again. Just leave it. But not too many times you have to resort to that. These are cartograph decals. They're going down really nicely. No problems at all. But yeah, so looking really good. I'm kind of happy how it is. I can't remember if I did that one or not, so I'll just do it a little bit more. Yeah, so that's, like I say, an hour in, perfect timing. I'm going to go meet my friend John for lunch, so this gives plenty of time for us to dry. I'll come back after lunch and I'll crack on. I'll work on more. As you can see, I'm crossing them off as I'm going. So I'm done any on the underside, quite a lot on the sides. So I've got to work away to all these little guys, get all the stencils on, and then when I'm done, we'll come back and I'll kind of show you where I'm at and kind of give you a further update. Probably about another 1 to 2 hours more work to get these stencils on, and then we should be done. I'm done. Decaled out. So I put every single one on, yes, all of them, all the stencils, and I think today I spent about 3.5 hours total. I really enjoyed it, actually. I find it quite therapeutic, to be honest with you, which might be kind of weird, but I say put the podcast on and just focus on this and take it away from the real world, and yeah, I kind of find it quite relaxing. So put them all on. There's 2 times where I don't use stencils data, and I'll tell you why. Firstly, sometimes the stencils are the same color as the paint. This is okay, but in that case I don't bother, because obviously if you put stencils on and the paint the same color as the paintwork, you're not going to see it, so it's kind of waste of time. Often when you can do that gunship grey kind of aircraft, that kind of thing. So that's the first time. The second time is I've stopped with semi-second scale. Sometimes, you know, if it's bigger jets or whatever, maybe, but there's tons of stencils like some of these Edward kits. Here's an example. This is a little MiG-21 I've been working on, these German markings. I also put this on hold. This is going to be a build series coming up too later in the year. But I put this on hold to get going on this one. But I'm putting the main ones on. But there's hundreds of little tiny little no steps and little decals. You're not going to see it in this scale. It's too small. You can't read it. It's just like little blurry lines, basically little dots, black dots all over the aircraft. So I'm not going to spend 3-4 hours decaling this. So in that case, these tiny little semi-second guys, I don't bother either. It's just a waste of time, I think. But yeah, so we're done. The only thing, kind of little housekeeping to talk about are I can't remember the part number. Sorry, let me grab my instructions. Reach over. It was decals numbers 151. The little hooks. So I'm not sure if you can see this on the camera. Like these kind of little hook symbols. They're all grey, but you get a few white ones in there. And the reason you get white ones are, I think it's why I believe so, is one of the schemes, or two of the schemes in here, you have black spine. So I think you paint the black spine. I don't think you use the grey ones. You probably use the white decals, the white little hooks instead. So that's that one. What I've done is, as I mentioned, you see here, I've gone through and I put each one on, I crossed it off. The ones I highlighted are the ones I can't do right now. So like antennas or like landing gear, like the bay doors and stuff like that, which we've not done yet. Obviously we need to do that later, not part of the main fuselage. So I've just highlighted those so I know which ones they are, pick out real easily. It's probably about half a dozen or so. Mostly just on the side of antennas, like do not paint, I think they are. But that is it. So again, we're looking really good. Kind of happy how it turned out. And yeah, that was fun. Still got detail paint these guys underneath. There's no big rush on that one. But next up, I'm gonna let this kind of give it an hour or so just for the micro soldiers to fully evaporate and disappear. Then I'm gonna hit it with another clear coat, LP9, my usual, which is, here's one right here. This is my go-to. Any clear coats, I use this. Gloss clear, love it. And matte clear, I use the old XF86. Between these two, it covers me for everything. I get through boxes of these I got like literally 3 boxes of these of 6 packs in my drawer because they're cheap and they just do a great job. I really like it. I even use this for that pink Chevy Camaro I did and did a really thick coat on it and actually gave a really good gloss on it too. So what I'm going to do is hit it all over. I'm going to be a little selective. I don't need to spray the whole thing again because I already did a gloss coat. I'm just going to focus on where I put the decals pretty much. Like in the middle of the wings and stuff where there's nothing going on, I don't need to really spray that again because it's already gloss. So I'm just going to spray it all, seal all those decals in. So when I come to the wash and weathering, I'm not going to rip them off or anything. So seal them all in. And next week we can get going with the weathering. So I know we kind of did a little weathering already, but we've got more to go. So we're going to do a pound line wash and probably neat oils as well. Just kind of really get this thing grimed up and good to go. So yeah, been a fun week. Hopefully enjoy this one. Decals, it's a little repetitive. I mean, I've kind of geared these people who have not seen my videos before. I think every decal video I do is pretty similar. So I mean, next time maybe you want to skip that if you want, because it's going to be pretty much the same information. Because there's only one way to do decals, so it's kind of the same every time. But anyway, enough waffling. I got stuff to do. So I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you have a good week coming up, and I'll see you next Friday when we get into the weathering. So see ya. Bye bye.